Hey, everybody. I have a special podcast for you. I was lucky enough to be able to do an interview with Charlene's cousin, Caryl Billings, and I'm going to bring that to you in just a sec. She found me through me finally coming out with my name, I guess, and starting to publish the blog. And we've known each other now for 2 years. It's been totally amazing. And I really feel like Charlene's story hasn't been told. And Caryl, tonight will bring you a little bit of that. Okay, now I've said tonight. It is tonight. But we talked actually this morning. So here you go. Here's the interview.
Hey, everybody. I have somebody special today that I want to introduce you to. Her name is Caryl Billings, and she is Charlene's cousin. And Caryl found me, right? Caryl, you found me soon after.
Right.
And it's meant everything to me because the one person in my life who I didn't have a lot of depth of knowledge, at least not her history, because we met her when I was a kid, and then I lost her, and you lost her before I really got a chance to know her as an adult, is Charlene. And you have provided me with so much background about a woman we both loved, but also knew pretty well.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have more of her story. And so I'm so grateful for you agreeing to come on and do this, do the podcast and talk about Charlene and help fill in some of the gaps, because I've been going through old news stories lately, and we both know the colorful Charlene, especially near the end, who was, who was always trying to find that thing that was going to make her feel, I think, love.
Right.
And so that's really the expression I think most people have of this woman as, near the end, especially as the newspapers have reported it. And I know there's so much more to the story. And I've talked already a bit about Gladys Herzenberg, Charlene's grandmother, who was also your grandmother, right? And I just
Go ahead. Let me clarify.
Tell us everything.
Okay. Let me clarify this. They are not related to me.
Okay, but
Grandma Gladys was my grandma. She still is to this day, and I'm 65 years old. And Charlene was my cousin, or depending on what mood she was in, I might have been her little sister. So that's the relationship that we had over the years.
So take us back, because we're talking about kid time, which is awesome, and then also into the teenage years, right? So you guys were, what, about 8 years apart? How many years apart?
We're 8.5 years apart. I don't know how much background you want me to give. I mean, most people kind of know the bad. She had a sad life. I mean, she really did, with her dad dying and everything else, and her mom leaving her. So
Mom left after Winslow died, right?
Yes. No. Sorry,
Before?
no.
Okay.
Mom left almost not too long after she was born. Dad was raising her with Grandma on his own right up until he died.
So you don't have to be a psychologist to figure out right there, losing two parents, one abandoning you and the other dying so horribly.
Right.
And you're going to throw up, just empty, just feeling that loss.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, there's no avoiding it. It is all that created the Charlene that everybody seems to know in the end. But that's not really who Charlene was. Grandma was a sweetheart. Charlene was fantastic to me always. How it all evolved was my guardian ran the depot station in Camarillo. And at the depot station was the bus station the train station, and Grandma had a cab service. And so she parked most of the cars down at the depot because most of the people coming in were coming in to visit relatives at Camarillo State Hospital. So she was constantly running people out there. Well, somehow my guardian got involved, and that was just another one of her jobs. She started helping Grandma out. And that's how the whole family unit began. Was I was always left alone, just like Charlene was, and Grandma took over. I mean, she basically, like I said, she was my grandma. She was always there for me. And so with Charlene, I sent you pictures, and you can see growing up until I left Camarillo at 9 that we were inseparable. I mean, we wear the same Easter outfits and all sorts of things. So it was a very, very close-knit family, even though we weren't actually family.
Well, but that constitutes family, so I'm with you on that one.
Okay,
Yep.
Like I said, Grandma's the only grandma I have ever known in my life. So, and she will remain so till the day I die. Charlene was, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I loved Gladys. I mean, I didn't get to spend that much time with her. I only was around her for about 6 or 7 years, but she was always the kindest, kindest lady. And she just had she had that spirit. When I hear these stories of what she used to do, I understand now why she had that spirit about her. She would make trouble with me. She was good at that.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, she was. And after we talked yesterday, and I'm thinking back on some things, and this was Grandma. I mean, this is just the type of lady she was. I can remember driving down the highway, the 101, going to skating lessons. And as I've mentioned before, Charlene was a competitive roller skater. And, of course, whatever Charlene did, I had to do. So I was taking lessons, and I don't remember if it was in Oxnard or Ventura or where. But we're rolling down the highway, and the hood of the car flew up. And and Grandma didn't panic. She didn't anything. She just squinted down in the gap and watched, trying to get off the highway so she could put it back down. And it's like, oh my, that was, nothing fazed her. At least she didn't let on that anything fazed her. She was a tough cookie. She was really a tough cookie. So, so Charlene and I mean, I could talk years about Charlene because we had such a great time together. Some facts about Charlene: she was afraid of thunderstorms, and it's not like you get many in California because you don't. But if one hit, she was on the phone calling that I had to come over to the house because she needed me there because she was so afraid of thunder. And here I am, 8.5 years younger than her. It's like, okay, what am I going to do? But, I mean, she always called, I need you here, I need you here. And so I'd get a ride over there. My guardian would take me over there, and I'd stay with him while the storm was passing. And then I can remember when she started driving, she started babysitting some of the doctors' kids that were at Camarillo State Hospital. And the doctor's houses were up kind of in the hill part of it. And I don't know why she did it, because she was so scared to go there at night. So guess who got to go along? And I can remember one of the houses, the whole back of the house was just solid glass. And you looked out into this darkness and you could see nothing. And she was always so scared of that. And it's like, again, what is someone my age going to do for her? Nothing, but it comfort her, and I guess that's the important thing. So, I mean,
yeah, that is the important thing.
Yeah,
you shared one of those stories. It said she was afraid of there being a stranger outside, right? That was
yes. I don't know if she watched too many horror movies. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But she always felt like there was someone, when we were up there babysitting, that there was someone out there watching her.
That is maybe the creepiest story that you've ever told me, because it turned out to be so prescient that,
yes,
there was someone watching her, and
yes.
It's just weird. It's just weird.
Yes. And she was probably, she was driving, so she was probably 16 or 17 at the time. So, yeah, totally weird. But that was the thing. So she hated babysitting up there. Must have paid well. I don't know.
As a teenager, do you remember her being, because I'm wondering if she did get a lot of attention she maybe didn't want, because was she as bubbly and, all the good traits that we hear about her effervescence, her personality bubbling over? Was that how you saw her?
Absolutely. Grandma turned the garage into what was then called a rec room. And Charlene had dancing parties there all the time. So she had a large circle of friends, male and female. I mean, I can remember because they all were so nice to me. Even, my age, the guy friends she had would always dance with me, would make sure I was included in anything that was going on. But yes, she had a lot of attention just because she had that kind of personality.
I can absolutely, okay, good. That's what I was thinking, but I can absolutely see that, because that's when she was good and on and everything was working out well, she was fun. Like, she had energy. She was creative. She liked to do things. And she was physical, so she would be active. And I find the skating thing so interesting because I didn't even know there was competitive roller skating, let's put it that way. But that became huge for her, right? That was really an important.
It was important.
That ended up being life-changing.
And if memory serves me right, and I'm sure I am correct on this, her skating partner was Guy Clements, her first husband. And they competed together. And
they won, right? They were good.
They were good. They were really good. Yes. She was excellent. And Grandma would make her costumes, and she had some beautiful, beautiful costumes. But, Grandma could do that because Grandma could do everything. I don't know that there is anything that Grandma could not do. So, yeah. And as we both know, if Charlene didn't get her way, things could get ugly. And she was like that with Grandma. She was like that with Guy. That was just the way she was. I now call her, and only because I never realized that they were basically had a Jewish last name. I don't think Grandma was, but, she was married to. No, that's not right. Yes, she was. But I call Charlene now a little Jewish princess, but I never realized back then that that's what she was. But she was.
Because
there is.
And if we go with what that means, or what it used to mean, it meant that you got what you wanted. You got
exactly.
You could command what you wanted, and generally you were indulged.
And that was Charlene. That was, there is not anything that Grandma would not do for her. If she wanted something, Grandma provided. And, yeah, she was spoiled. I was too young to really, I guess, realize if she acted spoiled. Because to me, she was just herself.
Right.
But maybe around other people, she was a spoiled, rotten brat. I couldn't tell you. She was never like that with me. I can tell you though, they both had personalities and kind of butted heads at times, and I can tell you. So Grandma, Guy and Charlene were pretty hot and heavy, and Grandma decided no, that was not the guy for Charlene to marry. She wanted to break him up, so she talked Guy into joining up, and of course then going to going to Vietnam, and it backfired on Grandma because Charlene's like, okay, and so she ran off and married him and moved to Florida with him, where he was stationed before he went to Vietnam, and Grandma was so upset. I mean, she was like, that's not what I expected to happen, but it is what happened. So, they were a couple. They really were, Grandma and Charlene.
Well, that kind of speaks to that part of Charlene, too, that it's funny because when I think of her, she was there were things she wanted, and I was clear about those things, too. All of us were, except I don't think that was, she showed that externally. I think that was definitely for family. That what I want, and I want it. But also, that's the beginning of where we really learned that Charlene wasn't going to stop being around the guy she wanted to be around either. Like that became a theme in her life as well, which is she was very attached to men, and she would protect that relationship, even if it was, in my dad's case, she was with my dad, but then also had a boyfriend. So, but that doesn't surprise me. It just seems like that's what she needed to feel validated and to feel
validated.
Loved.
Yes. Which we both know stems back from her childhood. So,
what happened when you moved to Florida?
Well, she stayed down there until he shipped out to Vietnam, and then she came back to California. So there was a period where we left California when I was 9, right after my 9th birthday. And there was a period where my guardian would not let me speak to them. And finally, after, I guess, 3 years, that changed. So when it all came about that, okay, they're back into our lives, I got to fly out there for Christmas when I was 12. I guess I would have been in 7th grade. And Charlene was in Florida at that time. So I was there just with Grandma during Christmas vacation. So then the following summer, I went back out, and Charlene was back from Florida and back living in Camarillo. And I do believe, I'm not sure on the years, but I almost want to say that that's when Charlene started working for your dad's law office.
Okay, because she would have met Mike.
Yeah. I mean, Mike came later.
Oh, that's right. But she was working. I forgot. She and my dad didn't end up together for at least 5 years.
Right.
Okay.
But I am pretty sure that was the law office, your dad's law office, who she was working for when I was out there. Because I went to it several times with her, and I could be wrong. It could have been a different one, but I'm almost positive it was your dad's. So yes, she and your dad knew each other a long time.
Yeah, they did, and that's what's so funny for me because I, even though she became my stepmother, she was in my life from as far back as I can remember. As far as my memory goes back, she'd be somebody I see at the office for sure, and she was.
Yep.
She was contemporary and modern and hip. Thank God there was someone who, who was like one of the cool girls of the time instead of the ladies, the moms. She wasn't a mom.
Right. Yes.
My dad also. It's also she was a mom for Lyman, but okay. So So she met Mike, and Mike was her husband then. Did you meet the Doyles? They're an amazing family.
No, I never met Mike physically, but Mike and I would talk on the phone all the time. And so I got to know them pretty well through phone conversations. And when I was a senior in high school, she was married to him then, and she wanted me to come out and go to junior college at Santa Barbara, I think. But I would have had to stay with Grandma, and Grandma wasn't up to it. Grandma's like, no, I've done raising, all I'm going to raise, and I can't do it. So I ended up not going. But Mike and I, we communicated all the time. Very, very nice guy.
It's so ironic. I think my mom talked with him at one point. But everything I know about the Doyles, and I met Mike's mom, I know, and I think maybe even his sister at some point, because Charlene stayed friends with them, which was, it's a real testament to the Doyle family, how generous and kind they are.
Well, but part of it's Charlene, because even though she divorced him, I am sure that Charlene was Charlene, and she was super nice to them, and they were a part of her family. That's just the way she was. I know that I know she and Guy stayed friends for years. Well, I say years. When you're young, it seems like years, and it might not have been years. but they stayed friends. I mean, that's just the way she was. Everybody loves Charlene. I mean, you couldn't get around that. She was just herself, and that's.
Well, yeah. Now that I'm an adult, I realize there's certain people on the planet who are like catalysts for bringing people together, or creating a party, or those kind of things. And Charlene definitely had that energy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the dance parties you just spoke of don't surprise me, that she would have been the person that attracted the crowd over, and that would have been the person that made it happen.
Right. But again, it was Grandma making sure Charlene had what she wanted. So, she wanted a place to hang out with her friends, and Grandma made sure it was taken care of. And then Charlene had parties all the time, and I got to partake. So it was fun for me too. So, I had a good time.
There's nothing better than being the little kid that gets to go. Like, that's so cool.
Oh, absolutely. So cool. Absolutely. And I can remember the guys getting down on their knees so they could dance with me.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh,
I know.
Yes, everybody, just good times, good, simple times. I mean, I know, ended up with her marrying her skating partner, but, and it's no time. It's so surprising to me over all those years that Charlene didn't get pregnant. I wonder if she actually had a problem getting pregnant, because she was in marriages that seemed, at the time, stable. And I do think she wanted kids eventually.
Well, I hear that now, that she wanted kids, but I can tell you the last time I saw her in person, and I was 22, so she was like 30, 31, she didn't want kids. I mean, she made it plain that she did not want kids, very clear on it. But,
Caryl,
she
may have met the Smith kids at that point and said, no, these kids are a pain in the ass. I know she didn't know what we just scared the shit out of her, I'm sure, like no way.
Well, that's true. She was married to him then, so.
That's right. I mean, that would have put me, I know the last night I talked with them, that was the week before they were killed, and for the first time we actually talked about kids. Although my dad was starting to get up there. I mean, he was 43, or
Right.
he's going to be 44 in the next month. So if it was time, and maybe that's how they had found their way back together. Maybe they actually were saying, well, if we build a house. Yeah. And she would have been, she was 30, she would have been 34 the next month as well. So maybe she was finally thinking time for a pivot.
And that could be. I mean, at 30, Charlene being Charlene, I could see her not wanting kids. But yes, as that clock starts ticking, and lots of women change their minds as they get into their mid-30s. So, and that could possibly be what happened.
Well, and her biggest pain in the ass, me, was going to leave for college. So, frankly, the Smith kids didn't need to be around as much, right? We had started to get really busy because we were growing up. So they could have, I think, in terms of me having a half sibling, we would have been more helpful than destructive at that point. That's what I'm thinking. Like, she could have done it without having to worry about us. Yeah. And
True.
I know often they talked about Jenny could babysit. So
yeah.
That.
So yes,
It
it could be that they worked it out and she was ready to have kids. And if that's the case, then that's a shame that she never got to fulfill that. Because I'm sure that child would have been spoiled rotten just like she was. So.
Yeah, when you talk about, so the dark side of Charlene, we'll go there a minute. She had a temper. She had a temper, a hell of a temper, because I've seen it. And she had a voice that was fun when it was fun, but boy, when it was angry, it could scratch glass. Like, you just knew.
Yes.
You knew you were in trouble. And maybe that's how she got what she wanted, because you just wanted to make that stop and get back to being happy again.
Well, maybe that's how she worked Grandma. Grandma didn't want to listen to it anymore. So, okay, whatever you want, you get.
That's right. So that is, and I think I don't think she was a terrible Machiavellian personality that was trying to manipulate everyone. I actually really felt like she was a person who was just so lost for love, for trying to find the thing that would make her feel loved, even though so many people, she had so many friends, and it was easy for her to attract men, but somehow that wasn't enough.
No. And I think that's why there were so many affairs, so many marriages, so many affairs. Something in her mind was missing, and she just couldn't grasp it. Whatever it was, she just could not get her hands on it. So I wish Charlene were around today, and I wish we could know her today to see how things worked out for her, how she mellowed out in life. Not that she needed to mellow out, but yeah, she had her moments. Like,
yeah, it's so funny that you said mellowed out, because the one thing that last night I was with them, they were very different with me. I mean, I was finally an adult, and I thought that was the magic charm. But I often think about, I would have really loved to have met a more mellow Charlene, which was bound to happen, because, you and I've done it. It happens.
Yes.
And I just wonder how different it would have been for she and I if we weren't feeling so competitive. If it had been more of that adult to adult.
Yes, and I think things would have been great between you two. It was just your age, and, your dad, you kids were fighting with her for the affection of your father, and that was just Charlene. No, I'm not going to share. Except for she always did share with me, but that wasn't meant. So maybe that's the difference. But yeah, I wish we had her around now, because I think she would be a completely different person.
Oh, there's so many times I tell my daughter that she and Charlene would have hit it off so well, because Katie has a lot of interests that Charlene had. Very creative. Just into fashion and style and all those things, and they would have had the best time together. And it is a shame because, Charlene had that, just her sense of style and her excitement. I remember that she had, and you missed this, I think, because, well, gosh darn, you missed it. Charlene liked to wrap packages. She had a bow maker. This thing was a huge piece of equipment that she bought for personal use. And every year at Christmas, she would, if you could set a tree like you set a table, that Christmas tree would have these packages wrapped in the most incredible wrapping paper. And I can't find any pictures, and I'm really mad because they were stunning, these works of art she would create as presents. It was a passion for her. It was such a passion.
But was it a passion, or was it, because I'm kind of OCD when it comes to Christmas and decorating and stuff, was it more of, my things have to be perfect.
Yeah.
If people are going to look at them, they have to be perfect.
You nailed it, because that was everything. I mean, that was her clothes, that was the jewelry she wore, that was the car she drove, that was the house she owned, that was the compulsion. You're right, that compulsion to, I make the joke about Charlene would take the glass away before you could finish the soda. Like, there was just constantly, everything always had to look. Appearances were everything.
Everything, yes.
Everything. So you're right. I mean, when I think of the house, they had the big joke with my brothers and I was that Charlene ordered a leather couch for the family room. She sent 3 of them back because they arrived with a flaw. So then when we finally got the couch in the house, so true, we were not allowed to sit on it because we would scratch it. So, and the joke is, of course, when they died, that couch got moved to my mom's house and we were all teenagers. That couch became a bed, a flop house, a fighting thing, a wrestling match couch. We ate on it. We did everything on that couch. It was everything you ever wanted to do on the couch we could finally do. But at Charlene's house, in fact, the whole front of the house, I've often described their house in Clearpoint, is that the back was the bedrooms and the family room and the kitchen, and we were kind of allowed in the back. But the front of the house was a formal dining room and a living room. We were not allowed to go in there.
I know. The time that I went to the house, and that was the last time I saw her, and we went to the house, and everything was just perfect. And I can still remember that little child's rocking chair. And I know you guys never got to use it. Of course, you were older anyway. But
no. That was there for a reason, but not for sitting. Although, maybe Tiffany got to sit in it. Jill Karen's kids might have got to sit in it because Tiffany was special, which is cool. I mean, I knew Charlene just adored Tiffany and Brett.
Yeah.
So maybe she was allowed, but Tiffany was also perfect. So there you go. I mean, she always.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't none of those dirty Smith kids, which we probably, that's probably what we were, the dirty Smith kids. Always in trouble and never clean. So I remember it so well. So did you hear from her much when she married Dad? Because that wedding was a surprise to the kids. We didn't know they were getting married.
Actually,
had you been talking to her?
No, I had not talked to her for a couple of years. And then I went out to California for another reason. And of course, I called, and that's a funny story too, because I called to track her down because I can still remember that phone number to this day, 100-25250. That was Grandma's number. Now, I'm 65 years old, and I can remember that number for whatever reason.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait. Hunter, for those people that are listening to this that have no idea what that means. They used to use words for the prefix. And you knew that was the first 3 numbers, right? Sometimes though we used to be able to dial just with one number as a prefix, I think.
Well, I was thinking hers was HU. They use
HU.
that.
Okay, it
out
is
of
a 2,
the
right?
answer.
That's right. It was 2, and then it was one number plus 4. Right, okay.
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
And you said it was Hunter 25252.
Hunter 25250.
That's a great number.
So I called the number because I, of course, remembered it. And I was I was visiting in Long Beach, and I went to track her down. And there was a housekeeper at the house, and very, very secretive. She did finally admit when I tried to explain who I was and stuff, and she said that Grandma was in the hospital and that she would call and get a hold of Charlene, and Charlene could call me because she would not give out the phone number. And at that time, Charlene, they had made their number unlisted. Well, Charlene told me the whole reason for that is because, once again, some guy was stalking her.
Oh. That's interesting.
Here's Charlene. And this is all the things I told the detectives when I talked to them, because it was an interesting conversation we had that night. And this guy who supposedly was stalking her, she had told him she was a flight attendant.
They told the stalker.
Told the stalker that she was a flight attendant. Now, did she have an affair with this guy? I have no idea. We didn't get into that deep of details. But she fantasized about her whole entire life, never told him one true thing, because she was married to your dad at the time. And he wouldn't leave her alone. And so they were being extremely secretive on where she was, what her phone number was, and all of this. I'm like, okay.
That's so interesting, because I just read an article where someone else was talking about, another friend of hers, they told the reporter in Ventura. So I have been going through old articles, and they talked about this flight attendant thing, and that she had spent time in Tahoe and other places. Well, I know she and my dad, Alaska and Hawaii. Now, I know my dad and he went on trips, and I know they did go up to Tahoe because my dad's stepmother, I don't care for her, but my dad's stepmother had a cabin up there. And I know they signed a guest book saying they had been in and out, which they would have done, just it was a free place to stay. But I could see Charlene being able to create that illusion because they were traveling, and so she could send messages from other places or postcards or things because they were traveling.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's so interesting. You just made me. Go ahead. I know you just made me remember a story that I'll share in a second. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, no, it's just that's just Charlene. It's a part of her mystery because she obviously could easily play other people if it suited what she wanted, or maybe she just wanted a fantasy life. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I do remember that she was so afraid of this guy because this guy would not leave her alone. And I was like, okay, Charlene,
Wow. Well, okay. So the story you reminded me of, because this speaks again to her nature and how impulsive she could be. We had all, the family, meaning my brothers and I and my dad and Charlene, had all gone to Big Bear Lake for a vacation. We had done this once with another family friend of ours, and so we went up to the cabin, and it was regular, like rental cabins at a hotel kind of cabins. And while we were there, one night, my dad got really mad at my brother, and it was really typical of my dad to get mad for all the wrong things. Like, you could break a window and he wouldn't bat an eye, but if you happened to talk back to him in the wrong way, he'd lose his shit. So my dad got really mad at my brother, and Charlene then got really upset with Dad. Well, she left with our only car, and she didn't come back for a day and a half. We were there. I mean, I remember being freaked out because I was old enough to know that this was a big deal. My dad cried for a day and a half, which was also unnerving as hell. And I had to just kind of keep it together with my brothers. And she just disappeared. And the word was later that, of course, she had gone to see some other guy. So anybody who knows the Charlene timeline can figure out who she was with when. But she basically left for a while, went and did her thing, and then, thank God, came back, because I don't know how we were going to get home. But that was when I realized that my dad did not have any control. And I had always perceived him as having all the power. That's how he was with my mom. But finally, he had a woman that he didn't have power over. And it was really crazy. I mean, that's when I was like, they're in a crazy marriage. Like, that's a crazy relationship. I don't think they were married yet. But I just thought, this is crazy town. Like, this is not normal. People don't do this to each other. And
well,
yes, they were definitely not high drama together.
Yeah, this just shows that nobody controlled Charlene but Charlene. And that's just the way she was.
That was how I experienced her as well. I mean, when we fought, when we really fought, it was typically over an issue of control, where mostly it was, I am the adult, she would say, and you are the child, and basically kids don't have any standing. But it was absolutely around control stuff. So I get it. I mean, I totally get it. And it was different than anything I'd ever experienced. My mom would stand up to my dad, but it was usually about something reasonable, like budgets or like pragmatic things, not this kind of emotional drama. That's what I wasn't used to.
Yes.
Lots of feelings, lots of emotions. Yes, Charlene, I would say, was very emotionally driven.
Yes, she was.
Well, I want to end on a high note. So,
okay.
Do you have a favorite story? Do you have because I do think, she's just a woman like all of us, with her pluses and minuses and flaws and imperfections. God knows we're all a hot mess. But any story that you can remember that just was something you'll always remember as a delight? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Well, and the problem with that is every time I was with Charlene, it was a great time. I can't think of any bad times that I had with her. And the same with Grandma. Grandma was just fantastic. And she always treated me like her granddaughter, even though I was not related. We've talked before about Grandma had a brother named Truman, and he was an attorney up in San Francisco. And Grandma was just always took care of me. So I love Christmases and Thanksgiving with them because it was always great. It was a great family time. And so they would go back from San Francisco to Camarillo on Christmas. They would share it. And so one year we'd go up there and you hear me say we. I'm not even part of the family. And we would go up there. And I know one year, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but as soon as school got out, Grandma put me on a plane and sent me up there by myself so I could spend my whole Christmas vacation up in San Francisco with Uncle Truman. They drove up. Me, I got to fly, and I was like probably 6 or 7 years old. That's just the way they were a part of my family.
That's the coolest story. I love that story.
We would go to Disneyland together all the time. We would go to Long Beach together. I think isn't that where the pier was? I don't know if it's even still there.
Yeah, there was the Long Beach Pier and the Queen Mary. There was a It was Port to Call, I think it was called.
Okay. And we would
And
go there.
And Charlene did take us there. Charlene took us there. That was an important trip. So that now I know why. That goes back to her childhood then with you, because she took us.
Yeah.
It was called Port. It's now that's all over. It's not overdeveloped. It's redeveloped, and it's very different down there. But I remember that Port Call and the ship.
Oh, I have pictures of us getting on that roller coaster. You know, we're just getting ready to go on that roller coaster that went out over the ocean. And that,
oh my gosh, I don't know if that's still there.
It probably isn't. It probably isn't.
Cool.
It was an old wooden roller coaster. Of course, they were all wooden back then. I guess I'm that old.
And people seek those out these days. Those are considered searchable, desirable destinations now, those old roller coasters. So there.
I know. There's one in Houston that's just, you know, there's nothing like the sound of an old wooden roller coaster to scare you to death. You know, so.
That's right. We have that clickety-clack in Santa Cruz. We still have one of those old roller coasters.
Yeah. Yes, but yeah, I mean, Charlene and I spent so much time together, and she never, ever made me feel that she didn't want to be around me. Even though I was 8.5 years younger than her, we always had a fantastic time together. So,
well, we talked for the first time ever after the arrest, because I guess I finally put my name out there and you were able to find me. But when you had heard that they had been killed, and you did talk with investigators, it sounds like, it just must have knocked you over.
Well, what had happened is, you know, I got married. I had kids. We didn't stay in touch after Grandma passed away. And I went out for a Christmas vacation, and we went by Grandma's house, and who used to be the sheriff of Caryl lived right up around the corner. And so every time I went to town, I would go visit him. So I went up there to visit him, and we were sitting there, and of course I said, okay, I went by Grandma's house. How's Charlene doing? And that's how I found out.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You didn't even, of course you wouldn't have known, because news didn't travel like it does now.
Right, right. I had no idea.
Oh,
no idea.
I'm so sorry you heard like that. Oh.
And
so, yeah.
So, of course, in the conversation, it came up that I had just talked to her a few years before, had been in town, and we had spent the day together and stuff. And so, yes, the detectives called me to see what I knew. So, not like I would know that much, but, you know, they did confirm the story about the stalker when she was a flight attendant.
Yeah.
So, actually, I talked to the detectives several times, and I think that was before the arrest of the ex-partner.
Yeah, Joe Alsip.
Yes.
Yeah, that's clear in going back and looking at the historical stuff that there were so many things to chase, partly because of Charlene. I mean, both Lyman and Charlene had their hands in everything. I mean, they couldn't have led more complicated lives.
Yes. Because I remember when we met up, she was driving I want to say Cougar. And your dad was driving maybe a Lincoln?
If it's made by Ford, yeah, he would be always driving a Ford of some kind. Ford, Lincoln, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm positive hers was a Cougar, and his was a Lincoln. And so the story went, and this just adds to the mystique of both of them. The story went, she told me, she goes, yeah, we're paying $25 a month for my car and I think like $35 a month for your dad's car. And I'm like, how can you do that even back then? Well, of course, he had some connection with some guy who the police thought was kind of shady. And I'm like, oh my God,
Coco Caryl. I just thought.
Oh, okay.
Coco was part of our life forever, and Coco was always kind of shady, is how they say it. Yes. Yep, and there was always a deal, and there was always a negotiation or a barter or something. There was always.
Yeah. So.
So yeah, you even knew about that. Oh wow, yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it did lead. No wonder the investigators nearly lost their minds that first year, because there was just so much to chase. And it's why I grew up believing, not blaming them for being killed, but believing somehow they had done something to someone at some point. One or the other of them had somehow pissed someone off so hard, because that's how active they were in doing stuff.
And you would think that. I mean, even what little I knew, I was like, okay, which one of them pissed somebody off? So
I have to say, that was when we first talked, that was the most validating thing. When I first talked with you, and I thought, okay, I'm not the only one that just thought, where did they cross the line? Like, what happened? Because it was that, I don't want to say crazy, but it was that colorful, definitely that colorful.
Yes, very much so. And now we look at it today and we know what happened, and it's just horrific.
It's horrific. I know. Yeah, and I think I've never, of course, meeting the other survivors, as we've talked about, it helps me understand what Charlene went through, which just sickens me. I mean, it's just so hard, and I really do. I talk to her, if that makes sense, but I do talk to her and say, I get it, and I'm so sorry, and I want you to know I'm still fighting the fight, because God damn it, neither of you deserve this. I don't care what you did, neither of you deserve this.
No, and the sad part is, when I talked to the sheriff, and he told me that they had been bludgeoned to death, and that's all he told me. And it was not until, I think, 2002 that something, when they linked all these rapes and murders together back in the DNA, that's when I first learned what happened to Charlene. I never knew the extent of the attack.
I think that's, I mean, in a weird way, that was the gift you and I had for 2 decades. We lived with it knowing, we saw it thinking it was really just this horrific murder, and not really knowing what else happened until, until then the dots got connected and we learned, oh no, it was so much worse.
And and then I just, to this day, it makes me cry all the time, because God, what they went through, not just your dad and not just Charlene, but what Charlene went through.
Yeah. The prolonged agony. I know. That is the part of the story that that I've had to deal with. Both of us. But I mean, I feel like I was a kid, and then suddenly, as an adult, I suddenly went, "Oh my God, I understand this at a whole different level."
Right. And the fact that your dad, and the fact that your dad had to be a witness to it all, it's mind blowing. I mean, it's just, this guy is the devil.
And if people think I'm crazy because I'm calling the Sacramento County Jail to make sure there's no coronavirus there yet. But it's like, God damn it, no, he is not getting out of this easy. God damn it, no. He needs to at least sit in a courtroom. I mean, just, ugh.
Yes.
so many of us deserve to have him sit in that courtroom. So if it's weird that I say a prayer for his life every day, yeah, I do, because I need him to be here for a little longer.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Caryl, this has been awesome. People needed to understand Charlene so much, and this has really helped, and I think filled in much more of who she was and how important she was to you and how fun she was and all of that. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about her. I mean, I've loved having this new relationship with you for the last 2 years, so thank you.
I know. Odd that we are friends now and we communicate, but, there's always got to be something good that comes out of horrible things. So,
I know. Yeah. And just knowing your grandma, I just know, it's wonderful to me to have the dots connected and to have these things in common.
Well, it was like when you sent me that picture of her and I'm looking at her and I'm going, that's not Grandma. I never saw that woman frown in my whole entire life.
Yeah. Well, for anybody that's listening, the picture, it's the company she's keeping at the moment that's making her frown, because I would have been frowning too had I been in the picture, but I wasn't. But yes, she happened to be sitting through a meal with somebody who was unpleasant. So it's so funny she's frowning. I had to tell Caryl, it's not her fault. It's not her fault. I don't recognize her either. This is not how Gladys looks. So, yeah, but yes, that other person always had a way of making all of us frown. But that's okay. I didn't have to be there. I'm glad I wasn't there with Thanksgiving. I didn't have to be there for that one.
Yeah.
I think I was having TV dinners with my mom.
Yeah. This has been great. I'm glad I didn't start crying because I feared I would. I am sad that I only had her for 22 years of my life because there were gaps in there. And
yeah.
So, but I cherish my last visit with her because it was great. It was just like it was like we were never apart. But she was very open about her life, and I cherish that last day we spent together.
All right, that's it. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions for Caryl, go ahead and comment. Probably easiest to send me something on Twitter, or go to the website and get my email and send me a note, and I can ask Caryl some questions if you have any. Now that you know how she knew her and how much time they spent together growing up, it's meant a lot to me to have these stories from her, and I hope that you've enjoyed them as well. Until next time.